Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of April 12th through the 18th of 2021. All right, so this week we're essentially coming off of a new moon, which is still very much at the beginning of the week. The Sunday, Monday time period at the beginning of this week is definitely the new moon energy and great for this fresh new start. Now, it is still a lot of continuation in the sense of Pisces energy, still very good for receptivity, finding a little bit more peace in our life, and doing things more important to us on a soul level. And in fact, this whole lunar cycle will be about furthering to develop that. But the early part of the week, it's good to listen, see what new is arising, and maybe setting some intentions around those things as we start to build some momentum as we go through the week. Now, we do have quite a few aspects taking place this week. The first half of the week does have some sextiles. In fact, this week we do have harmony between the Sun and Mercury, and Mars, the planet of fire and drive, and also Jupiter, the planet of expansion and opportunity. So there is a bit of an opening, nothing major, but there is some synergistic energy this week for the fire elements, especially because later in the week that fiery Mars will be trining that expansive Jupiter. So we could be feeling maybe a bit hopeful, but optimistic, maybe a bit confident and assertive. Very good fire energy to work with this week. Now, with that being said, there are some squares taking place between Venus, the Sun, and Mercury, squaring up to deep and intense Pluto. So Pluto, the transformer, the ruler of the underworld. Very good this week to dive deep and see, if there are some things that we might want to face some fears with or do some shadow work with. And very good to practice non-attachment, as it will be a very catalyzing week and a great week for personal transformation. All right, then at the very end of the week, Mercury will be conjoining the Sun, marking the halfway point of that Mercury cycle, suggesting maybe some insights going into next week. All right, so let's go and take a look at all of this in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here's the sky here for this week. This is for April 12th to the 18th of 2021. And again, as you can see here, we are using the visible sky, which is very different from mainstream astrology. For example, you've maybe just heard in mainstream that the new moon was in Aries. But if you do in fact look up at the visible sky, you will see it in the constellation of Pisces, just like this, right in the middle of the constellation. So this does change the signs from mainstream astrology. If you are new, definitely check out that link down below for more information. All right, so let's go ahead and sort of do an overview of the week, which is basically a fresh new start to the lunar month. Right at the beginning on Monday, we'll still be in that new moon energy. It is still very much about Pisces, the fish, which is about swimming with the currents of life. And remembering that we're all connected in a sense too, right? It's two different fish swimming in opposite directions, yet they're connected by the string, right? And the string goes to that singular point. So as that reminder that, of course, we all have our own direction, our own paths, sort of our own current, let's say, but we are all, of course, connected to that singular point. And that could be the singular point of whatever you want to call it, the universe, God, our spirituality, our soul, right? That presence perhaps, and just that space in between things. So it's a good reminder to connect to that. And this is where our intuition is. This is where our spiritual peace is found. This is where more of the doing things important on a soul level is found. So very good to be connecting to this energy as it already has been. But definitely a fresh new start and new beginning to further develop it. And any intentions you do want to set in the early part of the week for this lunar month can be a great way of working with this early part of the week. Now, like I said, there are a lot of aspects taking place this week. I'll break them down. It's not actually that much. It's mainly just the aspects between this trine between Mars and Jupiter, the fire planets we talked about, and then some squares up to deep Pluto we talked about. But this early part of the week, as you can see, there's a bit of a gap between some of the aspects. We do have a slight sextile between the Sun sextiling Mars. So again, maybe a bit of fiery energy coming in. It's just a good early part of the week, I think, of just building momentum in the lunar cycle, because it will still be the lowest energy phase of the cycle, even though there is a fresh new start. And so we're just slowly building some momentum. But with this sextile, it is a great opening for maybe a little bit of that fire, maybe some initiative, especially because the moon will be in in Aries, at least entering Aries here on the 12th, and then officially in Aries on the 13th on Tuesday. So great for this fire: assertiveness, independence, action, initiative. But again, just slowly building momentum, as it still is a very watery time with Pisces and still in the very early phase of the lunar cycle. And then once we do start to get into this Thursday time period, as we do start to see more momentum and more energy in the cycle, then the sun will be sextiling Jupiter, maybe feeling a bit open-minded, a little bit hopeful and inspired. But again, that could be an energy all week, especially because as we do approach the weekend here, Mars, that planet of fire and assertiveness, is in good harmony with free-spirited, adventurous, and open-minded Jupiter. So we could be a bit open-minded going into the weekend about possibilities, potentials, maybe what we can take action towards and assert and put energy towards. Now, of course, with Mars and Taurus, it is good to be doing this stuff nice and slowly, nice and grounded here this week. But yeah, nonetheless, a little bit of fire starting to become implemented this week. Now, the fire might be in a bit of a square, a bit of a clash, a bit collectively, because we do have these squares up to Pluto, and Pluto has a way of sort of transforming the ego, right? A lot of that fire energy, especially with the sun square Pluto here around this Friday time period. So very good to be non-attached this week. This has already been a theme of the new moon. The new moon already had these squares. So it's just a sort of reminder and a nice step in the right direction as we do approach the weekend and get into the weekend to again practice that non-attachment. What are some things that we're hopefully okay with sort of accepting for how they are, releasing attachment to, seeing if there are some things that we can perhaps even empower ourselves with, take some actions with that we know we really want to do on a deep core level, but we might be afraid to do. All right, it's all about going into the underworld, both within ourselves to do that deep work, psychological work, shadow work, face fears, personal empowerment, and then in the physical world, being as non-attached as we can, right? To see that there is these false things that are being stripped away, the ego things, the mind things, let's call them, that as we do allow for that releasing and that non-attachment to those, then we do get to the core. Right, we get to the core of the truth. We get to the core of what we really want on a deep level, and it can be very empowering. In those moments when we are, not attached to the outcome and okay with the quote-unquote death of a thing or a situation, that's very freeing, very empowering, very transformative, and that is the plutonic energy of going into the underworld or going into the cave and pulling out that treasure that lies in the cave, as a lot of those stories and analogies point towards in the West. So definitely a mixed week in terms of the easy, challenging energies. The easy is certainly on that more fiery nature of open-mindedness, assertive independence, certainly available, especially the later part of the week. But it does come at the challenge to strip away the false needs, right? The false self, the false perspectives on life in order to be free and empower ourselves. But great week for action, especially as we get to the later part, building some momentum. Great week of facing fears, empowerment, asserting ourselves. Can be extremely transformative and very constructive week, collectively speaking. Now, I do want to mention this sort of later part of the week, Wednesday through Friday, the moon will be in Taurus. And so it will be a great few days there for a little bit of grounding energy. A little bit of grounding energy. For the resourceful elements of life. And this is, again, where Mars already is. So taking things slowly, steadily, maybe getting a good meal, some nature, those few days there approaching the weekend can be fantastic. And then once we do get to the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, we do have a lot of Mercury and Gemini energy, which deals a lot with the mind and learning and communication. So I think that'll be a great weekend for all things that involve learning, studying, picking up that book, doing some writing, maybe some communication, connecting with peers, maybe neighbors, just a bit of that marketplace kind of energy. So synergizing externally, but also synergizing mentally or internally. Mercury will be sextiling that Mars-Jupiter, giving, again, a bit of that fire there, at least available for the mind, but again, coming at the cost of that non-attachment, right? So Mercury will be squaring Pluto, very good for deep research, uncovering deep things, the depth of life, the mind in the underworld. But again, being non-attached to our ideas, being non-attached to our communications can help us free that energy, release the shedding of the skin there, and transform going into the Sunday time period. All right, and this is where we'll be in the first quarter phase of the lunar cycle, which is all about action, initiative, and starting to implement and really challenge ourselves from the new beginnings from earlier in the week. And very late Sunday going into next week, Mercury will be passing over the sun, which marks the halfway point of Mercury's back and forth. There's 3 trips he makes every year back and forth from the sun. And so this usually indicates perhaps some insights, maybe some fire behind the mind. So maybe some passion, some ideas coming through, but good to balance that out, right? Anything that helps us become more conscious of our thoughts, more mindfulness, more presence, which is again great anyways with all this Piscean energy, can help balance out that energy. And I do want to mention, as we do get into next week, we'll probably start to feel it over the weekend. Venus is leaving Pisces and starting to enter into Aries. So we're going to start to value going into next week a little bit more of that fire energy. Maybe active things with our relationships, maybe a little bit more direct in our relationships, a little bit more fiery there when it comes to how we're connecting and what we enjoy in life. And this will then play an even larger theme next week once the Sun and Mercury start to enter Aries and we finish this very long transit of a lot of this Piscean energy that has been very much the theme almost these past couple months. All right, everyone. So that is the week in a nutshell. Most important thing is new beginning, fresh new start, early part of the week, just building some momentum with some fire energy available. The later part of the week is really where there's a lot of concentration of energy, which is, again, balancing a bit of that confidence and opportunities and assertiveness with non-attachment and doing what's important to us on a core level in life, and doing some of that deeper work as well to strip away some of the falsities that help us connect more to our core and the core of life. So Mercury energy over the weekend, and a bit of valuing some of that fire with Venus starting to enter into Aries. All right, so everyone have a great week. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click that like button if you haven't yet. If you're new to the channel, subscribe for more videos like this one, and I'll see you all next week for the next astrology forecast. Take care.